Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Sorry, I'm just finishing up my breakfast toast. I hope, oh, look at your hair, Laura. It looks nice. You changed. I like it. And then Laura looks like she got kicked off there. So we'll just kind of sit and wait since it looks like it may just be the three of us, but that's okay. You guys know I'm cool with whoever shows up. So
from the sounds of Nicole's yay, I think she's probably coming too, but
well, we'll hope we'll see her here soon then.
yeah.
So I've seen Katrina kind of coming back here and there too. So maybe you never know. We'll see who shows, but we'll just trust that whoever is here is here. So I hope everybody had a great holiday. It is doing well after all the holidays. Let's let Holly in. Holidays were definitely chaos over here. It's just like organized chaos for weeks, but we had fun. I got to see my son, so I was very excited about that. And he graduates soon. We're flying out to Georgia. Let's see, I think it's the 8th through the 12th to go see his graduation. So super excited about that. Still trying to work out logistics because of COVID. They only allow 4 family members to come. We obviously have more than 4. So we're like, how do we work this? We'll see. But I'm excited about that. So, and if you're wondering what I'm drinking, it is not coffee. It's actually oat milk and a coffee substitute called Pero. So if you can't drink coffee, but you like to taste like me, there's a solution for you. So today is our Saturday mentor calls, but I was not on the ball and did not get people scheduled. And as you guys know, Nancy's passed away, so she wasn't available for that. So we're kind of slacking a little bit, and I apologize that you'll have to have me as your mentor today, but hopefully we'll have a fun class and we will get to learn some really cool things. I actually learned from Spirit, and you guys know that sometimes my spiritual protection and shielding has been failing me. And I actually learned from Spirit another method that has really been really effective in helping me lately, at least with the energetic depletion. So I thought maybe we would go in and teach you guys that. And, you know, if you guys have any questions or things that have come from the holidays, we can go into that as well. I had a manifesting class, but I'm kind of planning that for Monday's class. But if you have questions about that, you feel free to ask as well. So if you guys remember, we're talking about shielding and the basics of shielding that Dr. Becky taught us. And what I've taught you guys is basically, what does your shield look like? What is it doing? How strong is it? And how long is it going to stick with you? And for me, and I think this may be true for some of you that are kind of natural healers or empaths, and you find that people are still draining you or attaching to your energy, it wasn't totally effective. And the reason that I found that it was not effective was that, one, that my aura was bigger than I anticipated. And so, you know, like I was literally on a TikTok, and you guys may have been on this TikTok where I was actually doing a read for a lady's foster daughter who had constant anger. And she reached out to me about a week after, and she says, I don't know what you did, but she's been a different kid ever since you were just looking in her energy. And I get that all the time. I had another parent who said the same thing about their autistic child. Like, I don't know what you did, but when you've been reading them, like everything in our life has changed. The tantrums have gone away, and this child feels seen and heard, and our life is completely different. And it's not just kids, it's like other people. Even Dr. Becky, you know, I've told this story before where she was fire cupping me, And all of a sudden she got dizzy and she's like, "Are you doing healing on me?" And I was like, "No, not on purpose." And so it's just like my body likes to just give healing to people, but it can be really draining to me. And so, I was sitting there thinking, like, well, this isn't fair. Why give me a gift? And why and not give me a tool to protect myself? And so I really went to spirit with this, and I was like, okay, look, like, I can't do this anymore. If you want me to help people, you've got to give me something here, because this is draining me. This is becoming just really overwhelming. And so spirit showed me something, and now I just realized my notebook's not up here. Let me holler downstairs and ask Zen to grab my notebook really quick, because I want to show you the pictures that I drew with this. James, can you grab me that silvery gold notebook that's like right there by the suitcase? You see it? Can you run that up here real quick, please? Thank you. You guys sleeping now? All right, have fun. Love you. All right, thanks for being patient. This is kind of, I have a lot of journals. So you guys, you're probably aware of, like, these are the ones that Morgan sent me. I use these for client notes. I use them also for like burn journals, where I'm going to write something and then rip it out and burn. But when I receive messages from spirit, I keep a really special journal, because this is one that I'm like, okay, this is going to stay with me. So this is kind of like more fancy. And this is where I put all my messages from spirit, like my teachings. So whereas I like get my little epiphanies, and I write things like the spiritual meaning of eyebrows, down to like what the thickness of eyebrows mean. And or like what your spiritual meaning of fingernails. I haven't even gotten into teaching you guys this stuff yet. But this one was kind of where I got that download of how this kind of new shielding technique works. And so when I want to kind of show you the picture of, these are supposed to be roots, and I'm not peeing my pants in this picture. And this is like a little, what I would consider like a hose or a tube. And so this goes up to what I had envisioned as angels. And then it's going to probably be a little harder for you to see, but this image, instead of projecting out the shield, it's pulling in our energy into kind of like an armor, a personal armor. So I don't know if you can see, it looks like little dragon scales all over me. And so I'm gonna kind of teach you kind of what I have found as a more advanced way of protection, and something that's been helpful to me over the past month or so. Forgive me keeping my phone on, because I really have to talk to my son if he calls today, because we need details for graduation. So reading what it is shielding, pulling my energy into the center of my spine, collapsing the energy auric field into a shield. I wrote down putting on the armor of God. So if God's not your higher power, you can say putting on the armor of the universe, or if your higher power is someone else, just say putting on that armor. But basically it's like an armor. And so what I wrote down here is energy collapsed and locked together like plates of armor. And it says, and I wrote new technique for shields before working with clients. And then the second part was how to send and receive and heal energy. So, I know that some of us here have healer as our purpose. And so I'm going to kind of teach you both parts, because it kind of came to me together. And so what we're going to do is, the center of your spine is kind of the center of your energetic force, right? It's kind of where all your chakras line up and things like that. And so it's very similar if you've taken my chronic pain class, of how we're finding the points of pain and pulling them in, except for now we are pulling our aura very close to us. And I want to start by telling you this as well, or pause and tell you this as well. One of the things that Spirit revealed to me, and I actually need to write this down so I do not forget this, is do not use longer than a day. You don't want to use this type of shielding for longer than a day, right? Because we're really collapsing in our energy and holding it tight to us. But it also means that we're not out there pulling in, the energy that we need from the plants and the air and the trees. So this is kind of meant as like I'm temporarily shielding, but then I'm going to release eventually. So whereas like the normal shielding that we are taught, we can leave it in place for a while. This is more like I need some protection now, and then I'm going to release this when I don't need the protection. And we're not going to hold it longer than a day because we need our energy and life force energy to flow properly. So I want you guys to kind of do this with me, and I'm going to kind of just walk you through it. Is we're going to kind of just do our deep breathing, just kind of center. And I just want you to envision your auric field first. And so this is kind of the energy that's you. And I want you to find the edges of your energy. And what we're going to do is we're going to ask the fields to collapse in close to our body. So we're going to envision drawing that energy in towards our spine. And you'll kind of feel it into your spine, where all of a sudden your spine will kind of go whoop, and it'll feel like it straightens up. And you'll feel that energy kind of closer to you. I have found with me that sometimes all the pieces aren't going to come in. So if you have a piece that's not quite locking in, focus in on that piece, and kind of just like little pieces of armor or scales of a dragon, or scales of a fish, whatever you can envision for yourself. We're going to pull that in, and you're going to kind of feel everything kind of lock into place. When you do, just kind of take a deep breath and just feel what that feels like. Is it's going to feel a little heavier. You're going to probably feel a little pressure all around your body. And we're just going to feel that shield. And then I'm just going to breathe in and get out again. And I want you to just kind of release and tell your body release or let go. And you're going to kind of feel that kind of just push away from you. And that weight's going to go back out. And to me, it feels like little springs. It's going to spring kind of out. I'm just going to let that go. And so you guys can keep practicing this as you want, where you're going to bring it in again. And I just want you to practice it. Bring it really close to your body. Kind of hold it. Use your center of your spine and lock that into place. Ask your body, am I shielded? If you're getting a yes and you have it, if you're getting a no, feel into wherever the parts are that you're not being able to pull that shield in, try to pull those in. If you're dealing with chronic pain or migraines, be around those areas of chronic pain. And so you're going to want to pull your pain in first, that ball of pain into the center of your spine, and then pull that piece of your shield in after it. Make sure you don't hold your breath and that you're kind of breathing into it. And then let's just tell the body, okay, release. All right. And so you guys can kind of come back into the room. And when you are centered back, if you want to share how that felt for you, if you were able to do it, or if you struggled with it, I'd love to know. Is something that I was told not to teach to just everybody. And I think that it is because this is not a shield that we are going to hold long term. This is like, I need to be protected now. Energy is too intense now. Or maybe like for me, like I'm working with a client right now and I need to pull that in and I need to maintain that protection. So feel free to share. So it felt tingly, if that makes sense. Yeah, it does, because you're pulling that energy really close. Oh, thick and tingly. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Tingling on each side of my spine. And the second time you felt a little lightheaded. Okay. So lightheaded may mean the energy is a little bit too much to you. So really keep in mind how you're feeling as you go. And just practice with it. Um, as we release that shield, make sure that you're really pushing your energy back out again. So releasing is not just like releasing the shield, but remember, we've pulled our whole auric field in to us. And so what we're going to do is release, and we're going to push it back out like a bubble. And also, I noticed for me, I'd hold my breath during it. Make sure you're not holding your breath. A lot of pressure was heavier on your left side compared to your right. Okay. So if it's feeling heavier on one side versus the other, for me, what I found was that means we're not completely collapsing in the other side. So anywhere that you're kind of feeling like emptiness or not as heavy of a weight means that you're probably not getting it all the way close to you. So really focus on those areas and ask like why. Because I know the first time I was taught this, I was like, okay, cool. And I did it and I was like, and it just worked and it locked in. And then the second time I did it, I was like, wait, there's pieces I can't pull in. What's going on? And I was like, hold on, pull the pieces in. And so I think it's definitely something that's going to take some practice. To me, it's almost like breathing in and breathing out your aura. So it's like, we breathe out and the aura is really big, and then we breathe in and it's like almost like holding your auric breath, where it's like, I'm going to collapse that in. So definitely keep in mind how you feel when you do it and what you're doing when you do it. And like I said, it's kind of like holding our breath a little bit. So we're not going to do this long term. This is kind of like a short term or quick thing that we're doing, where it's like, okay, my energy's feeling really drained. I'm overwhelmed. There's a ton of people. Collapse in my aura, hold it in for, a little bit until I get to a place where I can be calm. Or, I'm working on someone's energy as a healer or a Reiki. Let me collapse in my energy so I can do that, so that I'm not picking those things up. And I think that that's, very important to test how you're feeling in your body. Very important not to hold it. When you're first starting, I wouldn't hold it very long. It's kind of like learning how to hold your breath underwater. We don't want to hold our breath too long, right? But eventually there's people who can hold their breath for like 5 minutes with practice. So definitely feel how your body is feeling, because it's more of a temporary shielding mechanism, at least as far as I know right now, than something that's going to permanently lock onto us. The next part that I'm going to go into is if we are doing energy work on ourselves or others or on our dogs. What? Did they leave you? You should see her. She's like, she runs in like, she's like, oh God. So, 1 second. Luna, did they leave you? Come here. Luna, come. Yeah, go back down. Okay, go to bed. I'll be back in an hour. Sorry, my husband took my kids to the aquarium, and my other daughter, they finally got their apartment and they moved out now. She's like, she doesn't know where to snuggle, so she's like all upset. Luna, you have to be quiet. Okay, go to bed. Go lay down. This might be interesting. Come here. Okay, we're just gonna have to ignore her craziness. I'm sorry, guys. She's gonna get under the blanket and she'll calm down in a second. My dog has anxiety, so all right. So interruptions, fear or resistance. Like a yes. Anybody have any fear or resistance around or where we're not understanding anything around this shielding technique? If you do, feel free to raise your hand or type in the comments. But it can, I think, feel overwhelming with all that pressure and energy around you when you're collapsing in that shield. But like I said, sometimes there's a real need to say, hey, like, this is my energy and I need to protect my energy, you know? Um, so the lower half resisting coming in. Okay. So if we're feeling a certain body part, like which body parts are we feeling? If we're feeling the legs, is there hesitation, procrastination? Um, are we feeling stuck somewhere? And, when I was feeling stuck myself, when I was like, because like the first time Spirit showed me, I was like, yeah, sure, click, 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 click. It was like, cool, this worked. And then the second time I was like, hold on, there's bits I can't pull in. What's going on? And I really had to focus on those bits. And I would be like, I love you, I forgive you, it's okay, let's come in. And I would have to kind of call each piece in. And so it was like click, click, click. And then it was like click, click, so it's a little slower. Um, Left knee, okay. So we know knees are about family problems, right? Old family arguments, childhood arguments. Left side's feminine. So looking at like, is there old family arguments or old belief systems there that are preventing you from feeling protected? Right calves are procrastination, indecisiveness. So are we feeling indecisive about moving forward with something? Are we feeling indecisive or putting off something? Is there something from the past that is pulling you back? And kind of just examine those things. But honestly, what I would do is I'd be like, it's okay, we're safe and protected. It's okay, we're safe and protected. And I would just kind of repeat that little mantra to myself. It's all right, we're safe and protected. Making you feel seen. I love it. And so I would look at each little piece of that armor that was not clicking into place. And I'd be like, it's okay. We're safe and protected. It's okay to be safe. It's okay to be protected. Right. One of my things as a child, and I'm still like this, is I would put myself in front of the abuse for my brothers and sisters. So if, someone was coming at them to hurt them, I would be like, no, hurt me instead, you know? And I've always been that way of don't hurt them, hurt me, because I can take it and I don't want them to take it. And so for me, that was part of my kind of resistance is like, well, if I protect myself, how am I going to protect other people? And so if you're having trouble locking pieces in, ask yourself, is this because, I have some sort of resistance to being protected? Why do I feel like it's not okay for me to be safe? Why do I feel like it's not okay to keep my energy to myself? And that was a big one for me because, as a healer, I have to heal everybody. I have to fix everybody. That's that belief system that I'm working on. Like, that's a hard one for me because I have to realize like I can't heal everybody. I can't fix everybody. And so the other one was a fear if I called my energy back to me, would it take away from someone that I healed? And, so I didn't want to remove any healing from someone else if I was bringing my energy back in. And so, because I had an experience once where I was feeling really gross and I said, I call all my energy back to me from all sources and all points immediately. And I felt immediately better myself. The next day, my husband's like, gosh, that shoulder's starting to hurt again. That one that I did all that energy work on. And I was like, interesting. If you're a natural healer like I am, you will tend to give your energy versus source and universal energy during your healing. And so calling back your energy is not a good thing or a bad thing. It is, you need your energy. And so when my husband's shoulder started to hurt again, I was like, okay, we need to replace this with God's energy, universal source energy, air product, other energy that's not mine. And so I envisioned replacing it with those other energies. And so this technique, if you're a healer, was very helpful because this is actually what I did next. And so if you work with angels, guardian angels, things like that, or if you have, I don't work with guides, but if you have a guide or an ancestor or someone you work with, you can call them in to assist. I called in angels to assist. And as I was sending healing, the first thing I would do was send grounding cords to the earth and connect to what I call Heavenly Mother or Mother Earth. So, or you can call Gaia or Earth Source Energy, whatever works for your beliefs. And I connected that through the earth, right? Because that is that loving creation energy, right? That's where we're grounding. Remember, we use my little lighter here as an example. We're like batteries. We need to be grounded and connected on top. Otherwise, our batteries don't work right. So we ground that. I envisioned kind of like a little bubble coming around me, like I'm sitting in this bubble of healing and protection. Now that's different than collapsing that shield. So you will need to understand if there's times you need to collapse your shield. So like for me, I've understand if I'm doing a work, sometimes it's just a little bubble of protection. Sometimes it's like I'm working with someone who's actively sick or who has a heart condition or things that will affect me more profoundly. And that's when I'm like, okay, we're gonna pull this energy closer to us and allow that source energy to flow around me versus kind of in my bubble. Battery is a great analogy. Never thought of it that way. Oh, awesome. Yeah. That's, a lot of people don't understand as well that we have polarity. I know Laura and Morgan have probably heard me talk about polarity as well, but our polarity can get reversed where our battery's upside down. And you guys know if you put a upside down battery in your remote, and then you try to click it, click, it doesn't work, right? And so our polarity gets reversed when we have chronic illness or acute illness. When we spend a lot of time indoors or on computers, your polarity can get reversed. It can get reversed with trauma and things like that as well. And so one of the biggest questions I have been asking a lot lately is my polarity reversed? Is my client's polarity reversed? And if that is the case of where something is reversed, I look at it and I'm like, okay, we need to shift that polarity. I was trying to find, okay. I actually just made myself a new sheet. I haven't printed these out yet, so I haven't started using with clients. But this is my new little chart. Sorry if it's a partially nudist thing, reminding me like checking the polarity, checking the chakras, because sometimes I forget to check certain things, but this is like my new scan sheet that I'm going to start using for medical calls of like teeth and feet and things like that. So I can have little notes. So if you work with energy work, you use notes like I do, always check the polarity. But I put also a reminder scan for spiritual imbalances, surgical removal, vitamin deficiency, mold exposures, chronic illness, pharmaceutical toxicity, water contamination, food sensitivities, autoimmune, cancer, things like that. But that polarity is a big one, because if somebody's polarity is reversed, I will read them backwards. Also, if you have a uterus and you bleed every month, your cycle can reverse your own polarity. Dan taught me this, and you may have heard me tell you this story before, but we were in drum circle with Dan, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And he's got this big, massive drum, and just the sound, like it just vibrates to your body. All of a sudden, the beat started getting really off, and everything was really weird. It was like, bling, and all of a sudden, Dan stops and he looks at all of us and he goes, okay, which one of you ladies are on your cycle? And me and another girl are like, it's like outside on the porch. And we're like, how? I was like, how freaking rude. I was like really offended. The other girl that went out with me was actually also a Jawa. And so she explained some to me. And then Dan explained more. It's that women's energy is so powerful when we're on our cycle. Our energy actually rolls backwards, which is why we're shedding that creation energy through the uterus. And it is so powerful that it will affect the energy of the people around us. And interestingly, I have noticed with myself and my husband, we tend to get in arguments right before my cycle starts, right when my energy starts flowing the other way. And he's so sensitive that he feels it. And so I have to remind myself every time before my cycle that if I feel grouchy and like picking a fight, I'm like, your energy's reversed, go ground, go ground, go ground. And he'll still feel it and it'll still affect him really intensely. And I know now, like I used to think, oh my God, it's so barbaric that villages would put menstruating women outside the village in special huts. And now I'm like, I need a hut. I need a bleeding hut so that I can get away my energy away from this, because our energy is so strong, it can affect people. So keep that in mind too. And that's one of the things I always have to check when I'm on my cycle, the polarity of myself and my client, because if I'm off on my reading, it's almost always because somebody's polarity is off. And then as soon as I fix the polarity, all of a sudden the reading goes better. So anyways, keep that in mind. And that polarity is very much affected by connecting to earth. So we send the grounding cords, and then we send what I call a hose. Dan would call it a hollow bone. It is basically your tube or your conduit of light. And I send that up to Creator, and ask the angels to kind of hold that and allow that energy to flow through and then out to the person that I'm working with. And let's see. I wrote, send new healing person who needs healing. Okay, so it's sending new energy. So it send the hose to heaven, ask for spiritual help, pull old energy and illness off the person, send through or around me up through that tube. So, if you're working with heaven and angels, it's going to go up there. If you're working with the universe, it's going to go up there. But we're basically, like me, I'm like vacuuming the energy off, sending it up, and then bringing new energy down and sending it through. And one thing that pranic healing taught me, and I don't know that I agree that this is correct anymore, is that they said to retain 20% of energy with you. However, for me, retaining that energy was too much. So I'm giving and receiving, like I'm sending out all energy through me like a hollow bone and just retaining my own energy. So it's kind of like that's passing over. So I can kind of show you the illustration again. That's kind of what it looks like. Like I said, Dan would call it like being like a hollow bone. And if we're a hollow bone, we're not retaining any energy for ourselves. We're just like, comes all the way through us and you send little arrows out to the client. And then we send everything else back up. And so I think that, was a pretty profound lesson for me of, okay, I have to do things a little bit different. And so that's why, and I think all of you guys are in my soul guide too, is that that's why I taught, okay, let's learn how to do your unique stuff versus a specific method all the time, or take that method and change it for what feels good for you, because everybody works a little differently. Everybody's body flows differently. And so, what works for me may need to be changed up for you. And what works for you may not work for me. And so I think it's very, very important that we're in tune with spirit, that we're listening to those messages of saying, like, what do I need? Because I literally spent months with Dr. Becky, like she'd have to clear my energy and help me heal. And I kept, like going up here. Okay, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to do to fix the situation? Am I doing this step wrong or something wrong? And then it was finally clicking with me, like, wait, hold on. Your gifts are naturally spiritual gifts. You just need to go ask spirit what you need to be doing. And I was like, duh, like I spend so much time overthinking. And so, there's so many great books, like this is the newest one I'm reading. If you guys want a really good book, this one's like really, really good. A lot of what he teaches is stuff I already teach already, but I'm even learning stuff. So it's called How We Heal by Dr. Douglas Morrison. And, great books, right? We have a lot of great books with great knowledge, but you get more complete knowledge and understanding when you go to spirit and you're like, hey, I have a question. What's good for me? Or why is this not working for me? You know, and what do I need to know uniquely for me? And, you know, one of my spiritual revelations going back to that whole retaining, you know, 20% of that energy that passes through us and giving the other 80% to the client was Spirit's like, you don't need any of that energy. You have enough energy on your own. And then Spirit was like, it was like, that's why he had a stroke. And I was like, what? Because Master Cho Kok Sui passed away around 55 with a stroke. And Spirit was like, he had too much energy in his body. He needed to give all the energy, not keep some for him. It was all that energy that he needed to pass. And I was like, oh, so he had too much energy building up within his body and his body couldn't handle it. Since I've tried this technique, also, my blood pressure stabilized a little bit. And I was like, okay, got it. So that's why it's so important to go to your higher power versus go to your head. And really allow yourself to receive what's right for you, because everybody is different in some unique, subtle ways. And then we're all the same in other profound ways, right? And what I felt is almost like retaining any energy from source would be selfish because we're always connected to source. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So, you know, that is right for me, but maybe for you, it's different. Maybe for you, you do need to retain some energy. And so, you know, keep in mind that it's energy. We all have access to it, and it's something that we need to understand what's best for us. And so, you know, hopefully you guys will get to practice this shielding technique a little bit here and there. Like I said, it's a temporary shield. I don't know if I would retain it permanently, but it is something that's like, okay, if I'm temporarily doing something or working with someone, I can move that into my body. I would also highly suggest that if you guys don't have a special journal just for your spiritual downloads, that you get one. I got this one at Michael's. I think it was like $8. And the thing that I really like about it is that it's got like a little table of contents where you can go back in and make your own table of contents. And so you can be like, okay, subject, page number here, and you can start numbering your pages and telling yourself where things are. I also love that. I'll show you a blank page. It's got little dots. You don't even think you can see the dots, but it's almost like a dotted graph, very fine. So if I need to line something out or create straight lines, I can. But yeah, this is kind of going to be my own little book of my little reference book. And I don't have a whole lot of information in here. I think I've already talked to you guys about some of the stuff about chakras. But you know, like eyebrows, like what do eyebrows mean? What do the thicknesses mean? And now I have this here as a reference because often when I'm receiving from spirit, I won't remember what I receive. You know, like I think I told you guys this before, like my whole birthmark book was 90% channeled, maybe 80%, somewhere around there. And I'm going through it with my editor. And then I was like, oh, I don't remember writing that. I don't remember writing that. And she goes, hold on a second. You have said this like 5 times that you don't remember writing this. How do you not remember writing any of your book? And I was like, oh, well, it was all channeled from spirit. And so it comes through and then I don't remember. Another thing that you can do, you know, if you're out and about, and I do this often, is I'll get downloads or messages from spirit and I keep them in my little note app right here. And I put my little notes in there. And the intention is to transfer them to my book. I haven't yet. But like little notes I wrote, the things that excite you are connected to your purpose. Let's see, like how to figure out what's blocking you. just a thought, if you're watching this, you've survived 100% of your worst days, keep going. This is where I had the download for the idea for our manifestation class is actually a couple weeks ago. I wrote limitless manifestation, happy little trees, finding happy little thoughts can bring you everything and help you tap into your gifts. And just a little paragraph like that is enough for me to remember a complete download. I also tend to put my journals in here as well, like my dream journals, you know, and all my ideas. So that's another idea for you guys too. The reason why I don't love this is because I have to scroll to find things, you know, and really, really try to find like what I wrote and things like that. And, you know, it just, there's no way to categorize it, at least that maybe there is, but I don't know how to categorize it. So, anyways, that's why I like personally this. And the other thing too that you think about when you're writing in a book, and I want to kind of really teach you guys this too, is that writing is an act of creation. You are creating words on paper. And so those words carry energy with them. And so they have power to manifest or to release. And so as you write, you're connecting a certain spiritual energy with that. And to me, I like to keep that in the book. I do think that we can connect some spiritual energy to our phones, but to me, it doesn't feel appropriate. So that's why I have my little book. And I hope that you guys maybe will go get your own little books. And this is different than your journals. Those of you that are wondering, they finally came. I got them. It was a nightmare. They delivered them to the wrong address. I had to go pick them up because they're like, oh, we delivered it to such and such address. I'm like, that's not my address. Where did you get that address? And they're like, we don't know. So I literally drove over there and was like, hi, do you have an Amazon package? It's not yours. And they're like, yeah. And I was just gonna have Amazon come back and pick it up. I'm like, oh no, please don't. Can I have it? It's mine. And you know, so I had to rescue the books, and you know, we have them, and they're like this nice little, I don't know what you call it, like a mat, but that's kind of what they look like inside. You know, so you got all that stuff in there. And so I'm to this weekend, get these packaged with your little crystals and other little goodies and getting starting to ship out to you guys. So you'll have these journals too, but these journals are more for learning. You know, it'll be more of like, you know, regular journaling stuff, whereas this journal is going to be more of, this is like my sacred journal where I'm going to keep and I'm going to record stuff. Morgan just saw your comment. She said you can make folders on the Notes app and iPhone, and you can search bar for each keyword or phrase. Okay, so see, learning stuff every day. It's just like somebody told me I could categorize and organize my photos. And I was like, really? Because I just have like 12,000 photos sitting there doing nothing. So me and organization are not always the best things. But you know, you can use these things if you like. But like I said, there's something really amazing about writing things down and powerful. My other journal, which is downstairs, I have a little mini journal with like, it looks like a little ancient book and a clasp. And oh, okay, I see that. So what about sage? Is it going to be the same for sage, Morgan? Do you think?
I'm not sure with sage. I know wood they are, but with plants, border control's kind of iffy. I know I have some. I think Laura, you have some too, anyways, right? With sage. Yeah,
Okay.
it might not be worth the risk of sending it in case border patrol just like seizes it and then nothing comes.
So maybe I'll throw in like a little extra crystal or something, so that you guys like, yeah, we'll just make a note. Canadians won't get any plant material. Just in case they search, because we don't want to deal with that. So, sorry, now I lost my brain. But we'll talk about this more in manifesting class. I need to find that journal. I have one that's like, actually, it's really cool. It's on Amazon. And it looks like an old fashioned book with like a little metal clasp. And that's more of like my manifesting journal. And I do the same thing with manifesting, where I will handwrite my manifestations. And it is so, so powerful that I was looking at some old manifestations. And this was like from 3 or 4 years ago. And everything in those manifestations is starting to happen now. It's starting to kind of open up. And silly enough, one of my manifestations was that I worked with famous and influential people. And I have had several of those type of clients. And I was like, wow. I kind of, now I don't know that I would manifest the same thing. Because just because they're famous, man, some of those famous and influential people have some chaotic, crazy shit in their energy. I'll just say that. I won't say who, but I'm like, oh man, what did I ask for? But it was just really interesting to see that happen. And we're going to go more into that manifestation stuff in Monday's class for becoming spirit fluent. For our soul guide mentorship on Monday, we are going to focus, I believe, on the care and feeding of spiritual people, of really learning what types of foods and supplements are best for us so that we're not burning out our energy and our adrenals and our body, and that we're able to have the strength that we need to utilize our spiritual gifts and things like that. Even down to the things that you should eat or do before and during, special ceremonies and things like that. So it should be really cool. That's kind of most of what I have for us today. We have an extra like 12 minutes if anybody has specific questions or anything we talked about or anything we didn't talk about. I'd be happy to give you guys any information that I have that you would need to kind of get you through your weekend. So does anybody have anything for me? Laura, go ahead.
I have a question. So I was taught about using kind of that armor visualization many years ago to help protect. And at the time, the person also kind of said to visualize even colors, crystals as other ways to protect. But they also said to visualize mirrors that reflected back at the person.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of wondered, like, is that an ideal? Like, I mean, I think it would depend on what environment you're on as to what you wanted to kind of put into that armor. So I just kind of was curious about that.
Yeah, I love that somebody else taught that, because that's validation that I was getting a good spiritual message and it wasn't just my brain trying to make stuff up. So I'm going to see if I can find the page in here. If you guys remember the handout that we did on shielding, we actually talked somewhat about doing mirrors. So here's that little page there. So like the pillar of light, the bubble, or the reflective mirror. Yeah, you got that one. Okay. And so to me, the reflective mirror, I use the reflective mirror when like someone won't let me alone. So with narcissists and things like that, where it's like, no matter what you do, they're not going to leave you alone. Okay, I'm going to reflect your energy back to you. Whatever you're sending at me, I'm sending back to you. To me, and I'm not into witchcraft or anything like that, but I hear often like a return to sender spell is often like what people talk about. That's almost what that feels like to me. The mirror is like, I'm going to return someone's energy to sender. Or I want them to see themselves and what their behavior is, and I don't want to absorb their energy. So to me, that is used with narcissists, energy vampires, and things like that. So it is also, to me, when we want to hide our energy from someone, we're going to use a reflection, because when they look for us, they see the reflection. I have used zipping up the energy too, where it's like a zipper. And there's been times where I've zipped up other people's energy. Very distinct time. I remember we are going to Texas Roadhouse, which love their rolls. Anyways, there was this guy there that was like, oh my God, his energy, like you could just tell he was into some really dark shit. And I was like, my bubble wasn't working and he was like inching closer to me. And I was like, okay, you know what? I just closed my eyes and I envisioned just zipping up all over his energy and then setting a mirror in front of me and reflecting. And he kind of stood back. And so the zipping up their energy is like, hey, keep your energy to yourself. It's kind of like keep your hands to yourself. And the mirror is like, hey, look at what you're doing, step back. So when we do the bubble, that's more of like, bubbles, I just want to have like a little bubble of protection, like a little ball of protection. We talked about the pillar of light. To me, the pillar of light is I want to have more protection, stronger protection that I can kind of push people away. So, if we're in a crowded place, like a bar, a restaurant, a concert, definitely IKEA, that, pillar and pushing that energy out is a great way to kind of keep and maintain space around you. To me, pulling in the armor is more of, okay, like something might harm me. Like I'm working with someone who has cancer. I don't want to pick up the cancer energy. Or I'm going to be in a really difficult situation. Let me put that armor on. What it is made of, the colors that you choose are your choice. It's like what resonates with you. Like for me, when I saw it, it was golden for me. It was like a golden dragon scale armor. But for you, it might be layers of crystals and like this crystalline armor. It could be, I want to put flowers around me or clouds or, that is why it's so important to say, like, what does my body need for protection and shielding versus what does somebody else tell me, and different colors are going to mean different things. Like when I work with people who are protected in protecting their energy is often the color of black. And so someone who's in a real protection mode, their armor might look black. Black is a temporary protection color though, because we don't want to always have a lack of energy. So kind of keep that in mind. Just Holly said, how would you cleanse your phone from dealing with a toxic energy vampire person so you don't physically hold on to the energy? I would literally visualize it personally with me of like a telephone cord, like, we're playing telephone, like the kids with your little, I won't, like, hello. I would envision that cord and I would envision cutting it or disconnecting or burning it, and saying like this, I would just literally be like, this conversation is over. Thank you. And just push that back to them. You can say things like, I don't accept your energy. I release your energy. I love you too much to argue is a great phrase for me that disconnects that, where I'm saying, I love you too much to argue. And I'll actually say it to the person and I'll be like, I'll talk to you when you can be nice and sweet. And then I hang up. I use that with my dad a lot. Not as much anymore, but I love you too much to argue. I'll talk to you when I can be nice and sweet. And then that energy kind of like says, yeah, we're done. We're cutting. We're disconnecting and setting that back. Morgan says, I find I struggle in public, so use headphones or putting my hearing aids in and turning them off to dampen the outside noise. I have an easier time when I don't have too much input coming in. Yes. And then she suggested using Palo Santo to cleanse keys. And that's you can always do any sort of smoke cleansing on any objects. I smoke cleanse any and everything all the time. You guys will often see me, light incense and do things like that. Just remember, we're doing smoke cleansing outside or near an open window or door so that energy flows out. Headphones are a great way to kind of cut that sensory off. Thanks. I struggle with my mom's energy affecting you for days. Same thing with my dad. And, this is the hard part, is that my dad and I used to talk every day. And now we only talk like once every week or two. And because his energy is still chaotic, and I won't allow that to affect me. We don't talk as much. So like when he was sick, he was really sick before I found out because I don't talk to him as much. And so, that phrase for me, because he would just, like, my husband literally went to me, he's like, you can't do this anymore. Every time you're done with your dad, your energy's all over, you're crying, you're upset for days. And he's like, you have to say no. And I was like, okay. And so I just would say, hey, daddy, I'm not available for this conversation. Hey, daddy, I love you too much to argue. And you can physically see any cords that are connected between you and someone else, and just see in between every call, every conversation, every interaction, that we're dissipating any negative cords or connections that we've made during that conversation. Sometimes what I will do as well, because I use that pillar of light as another way of protecting, is that I will envision that pillar of light spins and cuts any cords, and I will just sit and I'll be like, okay, spin, disconnect all cords, the connections that I've made through the day that are not beneficial or harmful to me. And I'll feel it go around me, and I can literally feel them go pop, 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 and they'll just pop off and disconnect. And so, especially if you work with people, either energy healing or, in a medical fields or customer service, where you're near people a whole lot, even if it's like over the phone and things, disconnect those cords. Morgan says I do that with my grandfather. I screening phone calls from him and only answer in return if I'm in space to protect myself properly and enforce strict boundaries. I love that. That's awesome. And that's really important. We have to have strict boundaries with our energy and say, this is okay and this is not okay. Because all of us here at least are empathic, and people will want to drain your energy. A lot of people with lower vibrational energy, they're like what I envision as someone who is drowning. I used to be a lifeguard. And so when they taught us when someone is drowning, they're going to do this. And in order to try to save themselves, they can literally drown their rescuer and they will pull you under. And so one of the things we're taught is to face them away from you so they can't pull at you, and go under them and provide them the support, but it's support and connection on your terms. So, and you're putting anything that's flailing away from you. And so that's the same thing with energy. Someone is energetically flailing, they're going to drown you with them. And so in order to help them, you have to say, this is on my terms, and turn them around and kind of keep them from pulling you under and drowning you with them. And for me, it is very easy for my dad to pull me back down with him. Very easy. I recognize it all the time. I'm like, oh, great. I spent almost 4 days with him when I was taking care of him. And I could feel my energy start to just go, woo, and you would start to have, those old toxic conversations. And I'd start to get pulled into him. And then I'd be like, no, let's change it. And, and it was funny though, towards the end, I said, hey, Dad, there's a study where people who watch comedies, because he was watching all these really dramatic, scary movies, and I don't like them. And of course, it's his house, so I can't say no. And I was like, hey, Daddy, there's this study that people who watch comedies heal faster. And so then we started watching comedies and, Dwayne the Rock Johnson movies where was it, Journey to the Center of the Earth and things like that, where we were laughing and having fun and the energy shifted. So, suggest things that are protective to you guys. And don't be afraid to stand for what's important to you and what's protective to you. You can say no to anyone and anything, right? You don't have to fix or solve anything for anyone. So you get to choose, right? So don't let anybody else drown you. All right. I am booked back to back. Literally, I messed up my calendar. I'm sorry. Morgan did so much work and then I did something and I messed it up. And so I'm booked back to back today. Sorry, Morgan. I know you did a lot of hard work. Nancy's fixing the mistake I made. Anyways, so I need to run. I have clients right now. But if you guys need anything, post in our group, ask questions. I'm happy to answer them. And I will see you guys Monday for classes. I'm so excited that we're getting back into the swing of things. So you guys have a beautiful day. And I'm really excited to teach you guys Monday about manifestation, because we're going to learn about non-specific manifestation. And a lot of people teach that you have to be very specific on manifestation. And I've learned that's not true. So you guys have an awesome day. I'm going to go run and hang out with my client. You guys have a beautiful day and weekend. Bye, everybody.